Fire away. Welcome back. We missed you last week.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Dowell, looking at it, when Robbie's in the game for extended periods of time, like he had to beat LSU, how does that affect your play calling? Is it a shortened playbook, completely different playbook? Just how does that affect it when he's in instead of LENOR?
Yeah, it's you play that guy's strengths, and there's some similarities with him and LENOR, but there's also there's a difference in between the two as well. So you play his strengths. When you're the backup quarterback, you don't get every rep that LENOR gets during the week. So you also have to have intelligent, smart backups that can play with limited reps. It was a premium in the NFL. Like, one of the questions we'd ask when we start going through these guys that you start drafting the 4th through 7th round, like, are they smart? Can they learn without a lot of reps? So then you look at the reps you've had during the week with him. So when he gets in there, you're doing things that he's done that week because there are just the way it is. Like, he's not going to get every rep. He's not going to get every look as the backup that LENOR gets. So there are certain plays that get marked off the call sheet right away.
Dowell, it seems like ball security has been somewhat of an issue for you guys. What have you seen on tape that's kind of stood out as why that is?
Yeah, I appreciate you putting that very delicately because it is an issue. You're not going to beat SEC teams when you turn the ball over 3 times. And look, picks, interceptions are going to happen. Peyton Manning is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, if not the best, and he still has the rookie record for most interceptions thrown. But the fumbles are what drive you nuts because most of the time the fumbles are a technique thing. And when I look at those things and the quarterbacks had 2 of them, so I hold myself accountable. And that's where I start to get frustrated with myself is obviously what I'm doing is not working, and I need to find a different way to challenge them fundamentally on those things. Now, LENOR's, he made an unbelievable check that most redshirt freshmen don't make in that look. He saw a look that we talked about on Friday morning that they had shown in the past. They hadn't shown one time on tape. And we said, hey, look, they could do this. They have not done this one time this year, and they played with their nickel, a little bit number 7, but they had it. And they did it some when he was at Missouri, and obviously we had the 2 years at Arkansas and last year and he checks that play, and we had a bust in the protection, and at that point, knowing the journey's over and throw the ball away because he's got Mazio for a first down. He checks the play, and I'm in the box saying, what's he doing? I'm asking the signal guys. I'm like, hey, you two, what play did you signal in? And I see him making this, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, he just checked that. He saw it. It was an incredible check. But when we don't get the other 10 guys do their job, let's end every series with a kick. And if we do that, we keep playing smart, and the defense came in and held them to 3 that way. But all of a sudden, LENOR is playing his best half of football without a question, without a doubt. What he was seeing in the game starts slowing down. All of a sudden, like, you start as a play caller, you start to feel like you're Superman because, hey, I can call anything. It's a little bit like Spence last year where whatever we call, if it's not the picture-perfect look, he's going to get to number 2. He's going to get to number 3. When you start making those checks and all stuff, now you're like, hey, this guy's starting to see it, and it's starting to slow down a little bit for him. But then when someone doesn't do their job, you have the ball last. You have the ability to erase any mistake from someone else and don't let someone else's mistake become yours. So, and then Robbie's was a technique thing. We got to have our clock in our heads on some of these third down things. The ball either has to come out, we have to run it, or we check the ball down, but we can't sit back there all day and hold those things because both the fumbles were on third down.
On the last drive of the game, how much of that is your play calling? How much are you talking to Shane about situational stuff, what you want to do? And is there anything you would want back from that last series before the missed field goal?
Yeah, I think in that situation, there are 2 plays that we could have executed better that were going to put us in spot. We knew the line. We were across the line to kick the field goal, and where we felt good about doing that. That line changes also in your mind when you're sitting there saying if you're starting quarterbacks in the game, you're probably a little bit more aggressive right there versus like, hey, you got a guy that doesn't have the reps that the starter has. So at that point, we weren't playing there were 2 plays in this situation we could have executed a little bit better that put us in a better situation. But it starts with, hey, you can't have false start penalties in those situations. Like, and we're telling the quarterback, I'm screaming in his headset, check the widest, make sure everyone's set. And we got to make sure when we break the huddle that we have urgency to get lined up and get set. With a quarterback, the last thing he does before he says set hut is we got to check and make sure this formation is set. And you can't hurt yourself in those situations. And so we would love to get that thing. We were past the line we needed to kick the field goal. We'd love to gain 5 or 10 more yards, which I think we could have done if we just execute a little bit better in those situations. But there's a lot of different dynamics in that situation when you're playing with your backup quarterback, when you've got the line to kick the field goal.
with the run game being able to get going like it was, with I guess especially with those 2 long ones for scores. How good did you feel about that? And you talked these last couple of weeks about the offensive line and how well they had been playing.
Yeah, I'm really fired up about the way the offensive line's playing the run game. We still need to improve in our pass protection thing, but we went out in the portal and we got 2 new guys that play the right way in their style of play, but they practice that way. They practice that way on Tuesday, they practice that way on Wednesday, and they practice that way on Thursday. That's why they show up, and their style of play shows up with their attitude and their effort, the way they play. We also went out and you come from the NFL. We've been we're part of a staff with, I think there's 8 in the world that have a 2,000-yard rusher. So we were part of one of those guys with CJ2K in Tennessee, and we've coached guys like Jordan Howard that have led the NFC in rushing and done those things. So where I made a mistake was I go to college football, and in the NFL there's not a premium on running backs. Like I'm in the Shanahan system for years, and it's like, hey, there's these guys. There's Jordan Howard in the 5th round. There's, we drafted CJ in the 1st in Tennessee, but like Lindell was the 2nd round pick, and we had Matt Forte as a good player, and then we've had some good ones, but never just didn't put a premium on that spot. Well, then you come to college football and you get in Arkansas, and you're like, we got 3 of them in Arkansas that could play. We got this guy named Rocket Sanders that happens to be pretty good, but then you come here and you understand now in college football, the running back position makes offensive linemen look better, make wide receivers look better. There's a premium on that position that I didn't realize coming back into college football, and I should have, because I played with Darren McFadden and Felix Jones at Arkansas, so I should have known how good those guys were. And then you get Rocket Sanders, and you figure out, you go back to ODU and his ability to make the first guy miss, and you go to Kentucky and you see the long run he bounce, and the 3rd and 1 against LSU, and you see a speed to outrun everybody, and just the vision, and all of a sudden you tie that in with some quarterbacks that are pretty athletic and can run the ball on top of an offensive line who's run blocking at a high rate. But so I think there's a lot of people that deserve credit, and it's those guys for the offensive line, the tight ends, running backs, and quarterbacks that have made this thing go. And we've got off to a much better start than we were last year, and we need to continue to grow.
You mentioned those 2 fumbles coming on 3rd down. I think you were 3 of 12 on the day. When you go back and look at it, what's been the diagnosis over the first 3 games on the 3rd down struggles?
Any other bad stats you want to bring up right now and talk about? Yeah, thanks. It's a combination of everything. It's making sure that we're getting the right depths. It's making sure that we're in the right spots with the wide receivers. It's some of these wide receivers in the group separating themselves. That's a big part of it as well. It's, the quarterback, most time what happens, and you look at the NFL for the last 20 years and you look at those, we used to study the top 5 3rd down offenses every year. It was always the top 5 quarterbacks. So when you're saying, hey, where's Lenore's development at, you see it coming. I think the second part is start taking the ball a little bit better. The 3rd down stuff will start to come with protection and everyone doing their jobs that way. We're played 2 SEC opponents that are pretty good on defense as well. And so those have been great challenges, but I think it's all of us. I mean, it's a great question. It's a very, very fair question, an area we need to improve on. Even against Kentucky in the game we won, there's some there's some junk 3rd downs at the end of the game, but, we also hit some big plays on some 3rd downs that help us led to the score. So definitely an area we have to improve on. It's not just one person, it's everything. We're making sure that, hey, are we calling the right plays to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands fast enough? Are we getting our best guys in space? Are we doing, while a wide receiver group is trying to develop and emerge, are we doing enough with our tight ends and running backs that way as well? So we're looking at every aspect of it.
Gotta switch to something positive here.
Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Keep the mic going to her, please.
Before the injury, LENOR just looked more comfortable. He was assertive on that first drive. Could you just talk a little bit about what you liked from what you saw from him and what you're trying to build on going into week 4?
What I like is I've seen him get better each week, and that's what we talked about. That's what we talked about as an offensive unit. We're not anywhere where we need to be, but I could sit here and tell you the things that we are improving on. I can tell you where LENOR is improving, just how the game is starting to slow down a little bit. That only happens with reps, guys. Like, I wish that we could say, hey, this is how, there's a secret way. There's a secret way you teach your route. There's a secret way that you practice. They got to go out and do it. Confidence is only born from demonstrated ability on Saturdays. And so for him to just get these reps, and we knew who he was, and I've never lost any doubt in my mind of who this kid's going to be. I knew what he is. And I know that most of our fans in our locker room, more importantly, know what he's going to be. think there's some unrealistic expectations early on for him, and it's a big deal to start as a freshman or redshirt freshman, and when you've never done it, and it's a heavy burden. But when we started this process, we kept telling him, better each week, each practice, better each week, each drive. And now you see the game starting to slow down. You also saw personality coming out after some of those touchdowns, and like all of a sudden he's celebrating with his teammates versus like not knowing what to do before. Now it's like, hey, it's okay to relax and have fun and play this game the way that you're supposed to play it, and that's enjoying every moment of it, because this game gets taken away at some point. The hourglass runs out for everyone. You only have so many reps and so many years of playing this game. And he kind of just relaxed and played the way that just played free. And I think everyone saw it, just relaxed, free. And that's when he's at his best, when he's aggressive, when his decisions are aggressive. And it's aggressive in the timing of the play, so we're still getting rid of the ball. And we have an eternal clock in our head. But I'm really pleased where he's at to this point. There's a lot to still continue to get better at. But I'm very, very fired up about the future for him.
I would imagine that miles per hour is not near the top of the trait sheet that you look for in an offensive lineman, but for Kamar Bell to hit 18 miles an hour, how big of an outlier is that amongst that position group? And not trying to get you to call anybody out, but how does that separate from some of the other guys on the team?
I didn't even know it was 18. That's what Shane said yesterday. I think Lenore's was at 20 on his, and I think Rocky got like 21.6 on his, right? That's a big man moving. Wow. That I didn't know that. That surprises me. And I don't know if anyone that could else that run like that. Now, I'm a little bit taken back and don't know what to say. The fact you told me he hit 18. But KB, the way that he is, him and Torricelli, I can't talk about those guys enough. And it's not just the way they're playing, it's how they play. And that tells you right there about the kid. Well, more importantly, you ran 18 miles an hour. What offensive lineman is running full speed to get to 18 miles an hour in a game? And that must mean you're going to celebrate with your teammate because you're super excited about what just happened, right? Because no one else, most of the time they walk off the field. We just had a practice, and Coach Beamer's yelling at them. They're coming in the field. He's like, hey, offensive line, run, hurry up. Well, now I'm going to bring this up in the staff meeting. Well, hey, Coach, like we just ran 18 miles an hour in a game. But, I think it tells you about what the kid is to get that fast, like in a serious note, like to run that fast in a game. That's really impressive. And I don't even know what the top speed in offensive lineman would be. I'm going to find out. I'm going to talk to our strength coaches and see what it was last year. And even the NFL guys, like I've had some talented dudes in the NFL, but that's impressive.
After what you saw this morning in practice, are you expecting Lenoris to play Saturday?
I'm expecting for him to do a little bit more tomorrow than he did today. That's what those are my expectations. Same way what we're telling him, get better each day. Same thing with your health. Make sure you're doing everything in your power, spending extra hours, getting ready to play a game. So it's not only just for you, but it's also how you set the standard of when you are nicked up or banged up on how we perform and how we train and how we do things. So because everyone's watching how the starting quarterback gets ready. So his job right now, and it's been very clear, when you have free time, when you're not in class and you're not doing those things, get your butt in the training room and you set the standard for how you attack this rehab.
Through 3 games now, have you seen that wide receiver room continue to develop and having other guys step up?
Yeah, I've been JB's done. He's kind of taken a step and separated a little bit from the pack. That way, I think he and Lenoris are starting to develop a confidence together, kind of little chemistry. And his confident. He's such a good kid. Like he's humble and just excited to be here and excited to be a part of it. And I remember the first game against ODU. He drops the ball that it just crushes him because he works his tail off to be here. And he's like, man, it was different, Coach. I looked up in the stands, and there's like 80,000 people, and like the ball at Coastal, I could just see it and catch it. And like now all of a sudden these stadiums are full, and it's but that's humility. When you say that stuff, it's also gratitude and gratefulness to be given this opportunity. Happy with him. I think it's a group that's still improving. Coach Furry works his tail off to get these guys ready. It's a group that's young. They come from everywhere. Florida. Dre came from Florida State late in the process. DeCamp came from Nevada late in the process. Mazio's a true freshman. Nick missed a lot because of track, and so everyone's trying to get back out there, and I can name them all. Peyton and Luke Doty and all these other guys. I don't want to miss anyone. Gage, same thing, came from Miami, Ohio, and nicked up in training camp. So, same thing. Like it's a work in progress. We're not where we need to be. I think we have the talent we need to have, and just continue to play and develop chemistry. I'm happy with where the direction they're going, but still want someone to separate them from the group as well.
Went on a good note.
Thank you. I was going to say, please give it back to her if not.
Pass it back. That was the first time this season you guys have started the game with the ball. You go down the field 75 yards, 2.5 minutes, touchdown. What do your offensive scripts look like? And was that like the first time this season that kind of went exactly to plan?
Oh, I mean, Kentucky. The first 2 drives in Kentucky, we kind of stalled, and then we go down and score the second one, I think. It's really there's different things you look at in it. You're looking at how you're attacking the defense, like what you're playing for the quarterback. How do you settle some guys down? And there's so much that goes into it. It's like, hey, do you want to get Lenore's hit early so he gets those jitters out? Does he need to get a completion? Does Josh Simon need to touch the ball early in the process? How many carries does Rocket need in the first quarter? If it's a big movement team or a blitz team, or like, hey, what runs or do you want to start efficiently? Our goal was to have more efficient runs. Like we'd had some big runs in the Kentucky game and did some really good things, but it was like we need to be more efficient. So that's going to help our third down as you stay out of those 3rd and 7s and 9s. And all of a sudden you get 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 6. You're playing more efficiently. So you're looking at all of it. And it's not just one thing. It's not just, hey, I want to run this pass. Like, yeah, sure. It's like, hey, how does he feel about this? How many times did he see it? It's also talking to LENOR. It's like, hey, what are you comfortable with? What do you want to start with? And that for some of these young kids, they don't know what they don't know. But if they believe it's a good play, it is a good play. If they have confidence in it, it is. So you're talking to everyone. You're talking to the coaching staff as well. Like, hey, what do you guys feel starting this thing? And everyone's got ideas and thoughts. It's not just me sitting in my house by myself and like, hey, here's our openers. Here's our first 15. Here we go. We come in and we meet on it and we talk about it. And the offensive line coaches and with Coach Teasley and those guys and Sean Elliott and Black, they rank their top runs and they give us their top runs. And then myself and Shula and Furry and the pass game Ryan Yurchek, then we go in there and we give our passes and we mix them and we kind of come up with a plan that way. So there's a lot that goes into it, not just, hey, these are the best plays. And sometimes it's how it looked in practice. Sometimes as a coach, there's some intuition of like, hey, we didn't execute this play right, or we didn't get a scout team to give the perfect look, but we know how they're going to play. And sometimes it's a sell job to the players of saying, hey, and it's going back sometimes looking at how do they open the game? What is their percentage of blitz or coverage? And then the openers really start to say, okay, are they playing the way they thought they were going to play? LSU, they rolled it. The first series was all cover 1. Second, it was blitz zone. Then all of a sudden, it was like a Rolodex of defense stuff that he hadn't shown since Missouri in the first 2 games. So there was a lot of credit. We didn't do what we needed to do to win the football game, but there was a lot of positive on that tape and guys adjusting and taking the series right before Lenore's hit the long run. They were doing some different stuff, and we caught them in a look where we knew it was going to be a good play before the ball was snapped, the way they lined up. We didn't know it was going to be a 75-yard touchdown, but we felt really good about making that adjustment and adding that play in right there. And there's just things that came up in the game that, our players handled some adjustments really well. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.